It's not about that, it's about the voice. You do what you want to do, I'll do what I want to do.
You don't like it to ruin your eyes.
I'm already streaming.
Okay.
I don't need to ruin my eyes. I can open this if you turn off light in yours. Okay. Okay, so here we are again. A little late, but better late than never. So Puzzle Rush Survival. And let's go. So as usual, first will be a couple of simple mates involving back ranks. Just need to be careful. Oh, this is a self-checkmate. Queen h6 mate in 1. 2 moves. Okay, mate in 1 again. Winning the knight, but if king h1, we cannot really take the knight, but we can play some better move there, and it's all good. So this is mate in 2, mate in 1. Mate in 2, mate in 1, mate in 1, mate in 2, mate in... I think I saw this puzzle a few days back, or variation of this puzzle. You have queen e1, so queen a1, knight b1 takes, king d2, queen e1, queen c3 checkmate. So it's gonna be a check, 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 checkmate. Okay, bishop is protecting the f2 square, so it's just a weakness of the back rank. Sacrifice a queen. Knight f7 is a checkmate, so we then play rook a8 check, and we take everything in our way. Take on g4, and we are winning the endgame. And as we control the critical square, just push the pawn. For the h-pawn, the critical square is h and g. Sorry, g2 and g1. If you control it with your king, then you are likely going to win. So this looks like bishop knight checkmate. Rook d7 check has to take queen d7 checkmate. So here it looks like knight d3 check, c takes d3, queen takes g3, h takes g3, rook e1 check, and we have transformed into winning rook endgame, rook and bishop. And when we take on g3, black doesn't have rook e7 and rook d7 doesn't work as well, so queen g3. Take an extra material. Again, mate in two. The knight is very poor defender when it's this close. I said rook, but there was a queen. Rook h2. If you don't want to lose the queen, then king g3, and then rook h3. No, king g3 is queen h4 checkmate. If king g1, then queen takes f3 loses a queen. And if king e3, then queen d4 is a checkmate. So I think rook h2. I don't think there's anything better than taking the queen. Rook d1, pinning the bishop, winning, pinning and winning. Rook is more value, so we take rook. Now this position is we are black. I was looking from white's perspective, but I forgot to notice that it is white that moved. So again, bishop controls the escape square on g3, so it's just a checkmate. This is a very typical checkmate if you study checkmating patterns. If you play rook h8, king has to take. It's very typical mate in two pattern. Usually I don't have issue with mating patterns because I've studied them to a very high level. But some more general puzzles would give me an issue. So here's some calculation is needed. Like queen h7, king f8, queen h8, king e7, queen to g7, and king escapes through d6. So some basic calculations needed. We are very low on material, so down 2 pieces. I'll be honest, I don't understand what SB Kugar means. I'm so sorry. So queen h7, king f8, queen h8, king e7, and then Rook e1 check does not really bring the results. So maybe... Okay, but I can see that queen h7, king f8, queen h8, king e7, queen g7, king d6, now knight f7, and we are winning the queen. And that, I guess, must be enough for now, because there's nothing else. What else do we have here? Knight f6. Knight f6, and there's no defense from a checkmate on h7. This one's also a typical mating net. So we are on 30, and I guess we are going to go to 31. So here we need to destruct the defense of the king, which is the pawn on f3. So we sacrifice a bishop, rook c3, f3 checkmate. Our queen is looking very trapped. Trapped queen. But we can take on c4. We can take on c4 if queen to c4. So we have 6 pieces against 6 pieces. So taking on c4, queen c4. Then we have knight to d2, and we are fine. So I think taking on c4. Now taking on c3 looks just as well possible. But is there anything else that we have that's better than this? We have so many pawns, so this should be good. Okay, this is mate in one, very simple. And we keep going. Queen h4 is a mate in 2, 1, 2, 3. There's no escape for the king. Rook g3. Rook g3, pawn g3 is forced. Queen d4 check. And there's no escape from mates. Next was rook h1 checkmate. So now white is to move. If we take on d6, d4, f6, d3, f7, d2, f8 check. So we are queening first. Now we need to figure out how to stop the pawn on d2, but that should be simple because we need to find a check. And the check I see, the only check I see is queen a8. Then we bring the queen around and that's it. That's all she wrote. So how is this pawn endgame not winning for us? Rook d2, king f6, king e3, king f5, king f2, king f4. So rook d2, king f6, king e2, king f5, king e3, g3. Yeah, I don't see how this is not winning. Because we can sacrifice the g-pawn. And we are controlling squares in front of the pawn, so that should be winning. So this position looks finally a bit complicated. But it's a bit surprising that all of this works. So we have knight d7 check, king has to go to corner, knight b6 check, a takes b6, rook a4 check, king b8, bishop e5, king c8, rook a8 checkmate. So if we go through it again, we have knight d7, king a8, knight b6 check. If king goes to b8, then bishop e5 is a checkmate. So there's nothing else that can be played. So it's very straightforward, but very surprising. Very surprising how sometimes the pieces can work together. So we have same amount of pieces, and this very position reminds me my games. My games always very chaotic and sort of haphazard in the way I play. So at first it looks like bishop d3, queen d3, rook d1, and then we should be winning the bishop on d6. But bishop d3, queen d3, rook d1, queen c2, rook d6, and if queen a2, oh, then we can play just e4, protecting the knight on b3. Okay, let's go for this. Okay, that's a free bishop. We always like free bishops. Now, queen takes g6, threatening a mate that is impossible to defend. And if h takes g6, then queen h5 is a checkmate in 2. Bishop h6 and queen h6 checkmate. Now, how is rook b2 not winning? Rook takes b2, king takes b2, rook b8 check, king a1. And now it's going to be difficult to... Yes, but we have queen to a3, threatening mate on a2 at that stage. White can deflect our rook with rook d8, but queen to a2 is still very strong resource. If c4, then we have queen c3 check and rook b8 again. So boom, boom, and queen a3. Deflection is there, and now if c4 then was queen c3, rook b8. Hi Zero, we are just solving, so if you have any ideas whilst I'm struggling, just let me know. My ideal solution would be to get over 70, but I usually choke around 50 levels, so we'll see what happens. So here b5, king a5, queen a3 looks a checkmate. b5, king a5, queen a3 looks to checkmate. If b5, knight takes b5, bishop b5, then there's king a5, king a3 check, queen a3 check, sorry. King takes b5, rook b8, king c6, oh, and so let me see again, this line is a little bit more complicated. So b5, knight b5, bishop b5, king a5, queen a3, king b5, rook b8, king c6, and there's queen c3, and then if queen c4 checkmate, and if king d5, then c6 is a checkmate. So b5 should work. Oh, okay, I forgot to mention this one, but I saw it much earlier. So here is what works is queen a6, and queen b5 is a checkmate. If king would go to d5 instead of rook b5, then c6 is also a checkmate. Right, next puzzle. Bishop h2, yes, this is a very simple maneuver. You're basically maneuvering the king into a bad spot whilst improving your position of bishop, and also you're opening the queen. So bishop h2, the only move is king h1, and then you play bishop g3 check, queen h2 checkmate next. This also looks similar to positions that I used to play as white. Bishop g5, how about we start with knight? We need to consider a couple of things. There's something weakness with that knight on f6. I'm sure it's something with that knight. But what is it? Bishop g5, the knight can move, and then we have knight d5 kind of thing. So it's not working. This looks very simple, but very difficult at the same time. It's not gonna be a quick checkmate. And I need to be honest. I don't see the... Oh, okay. It's actually very simple in fact. So if we play knight to d5, which is the one move that I was not considering because white just takes, black takes on d5. But if e takes d5, we are attacking the queen and the knight. And at the same time, once we play knight d5, we are attacking c7 and f6, and both are unprotected. So this is a very simple move. One doesn't want to play it, but it makes sense. And now we are up a piece. So one of the moves that one would consider is knight takes g4, bishop e7, knight e7, but then white has h takes g4. But how about we play knight takes g4, bishop e7, knight takes f2, bishop f8, knight takes h1, and then the bishop is actually trapped on f8, so we are going to win that bishop. So I think what the white missed here, that they just didn't look far enough. We're winning the bishop, and with that the game. So black is threatening checkmate. So finally black is doing something to us. But we are threatening much more. If we play bishop b5, bishop d7, queen d7 checkmate, and if king e7, then queen d6 is a checkmate. So yes, you should castle first before you start threatening mates. So here. Okay, white. Here must be some sort of checkmate. Because we are in a big trouble, and it's actually lots of clearances and everything is forced. So if we take knight c6, black has to take back. If we take rook d6, black either gets himself checkmated with bishop d7 or plays c takes d6, and then bishop a5 is a checkmate. So we clear everything, because every single time black has to react as they are first of all in check and second of all in a mating position. So they have to take, and we checkmate. Usually when you see position like this, the first thing that you need to care about is the most advanced pawns. So the pawn on e6, I don't know, I cannot touch it. But pawn e6 is the most advanced pawn in the position, and we need to stop it, because if we push h2, he push a7, we promote first, but he promotes with a check. So king c6 looks like the move without any debate. So king c6, king e5, h2, king f6, h1 queen, and we should win. So let's go. So that was all forced. Now this is my favorite type of a mate that I've learned also when doing the mating puzzles. So again, I recommend doing lots of mating puzzles, because first of all, if you know how to checkmate, you can end up your game rather quickly, and then you will also be able to recognize simple patterns when attacking. So first move is clear. Second move is a double check. So king has to take the rook. And now simply you play rook c1 checkmate. So we are under check. And if you play king g6, then queen g7 f6 is a checkmate. If we play king g8, queen g7 is a checkmate. If we go king f8, queen g7 is a trouble as well, because the white will have lots of checks. King e6 is one of our candidates, and king e8 is our second candidate. So we need to find out what's the difference between king e6 and king e8. So one immediate difference I see that if you go king e6, then queen c4 check. And then after king e7, which again is probably the best move, white plays bishop f6 check. So after king e8, white has no more checks apart from the ones that lose material. And because we are threatening queen h3 g2 checkmate ourselves, then king e8 will be the best move. You can see that just you need to consider every single move when it's your move, just to eliminate, especially when you are in check, just to eliminate everything. And obviously I also evaluated what happens after queen d7, but that's obviously non-move. And we can also see that queen covers the c8, bishop covers b8, and when we play king e8, then we cover d8 square as well. Pawn covers the c6 squares, so I don't see any useful check, and we have still the winning attack against white king. So I expect actually white queen to sacrifice itself somewhere. It did not happen. Okay. But anyway, there was no need for me to calculate more than this, because the only thing I could have done at that specific position was to find the best move for my king. So here to continue the attack is to play h4 and open up the king. If I play h4, again, white has no useful check. If they take the rook, we take h takes g3, f takes g3, queen h5, king g1, queen h1, king f2, queen g2, then they have, oh no, there's nothing like that actually, it's already over. Because if I play h4, bishop h8, after h takes g3, if f takes g3, queen h5 is a checkmate, and if king g1, then g takes f2 check, and next is queen g2 checkmate. So the continuation of the attack is h4, and now comes the sacrifice. And I think our best move is always to take the queen. What else do we have? We are nearly hitting 50s. Knight c3 check. The checkmate has to be blocked with move like bishop to e2. And then we have knight to c2 checkmate. So knight c3 check, queen e4, queen e2, then we have knight f3 checkmate and knight c2 checkmate. If queen e4, then we still have knight c2 checkmate. So it's just knight c3 check, and then next move is a knight c2 checkmate. Oh, I didn't see that we are losing the queen. But I saw that no matter what happens, we have knight c2 checkmate. So there's something that I've missed in my evaluation, and this is maybe where we're starting to, when I say we, I mean myself, starting to falter, so we need to be really careful here. When I used to play serious chess back in the day, this was my favorite combination. I had one opening where I was tricking black into playing French defense, but in a line that they would unlikely be playing if if it was their opening. And usually what also happened that they ended up playing French defense without realizing that actually they will be playing French defense. It was some sort of Veresov attack. So here we just take, and now because h7 is a very weak square and also a e5 is a weak square, black will have no defense against checkmate and potential checkmate and losing a piece. So losing a piece it is. Okay, so here's some calculation needed. Rook takes, rook takes. If we take the rook, they take back. If we take bishop c6, rook d2, then we can potentially play rook d2 ourselves. Bishop c6, rook d2, rook takes d2. And you cannot really move your rook because you would be losing to queen b7 checkmate. So bishop c6, rook c6, rook d7. That also looks busted for black. So we need to consider some checks with the knight. So bishop c6, knight e2. Oh, this is a bit of a headache. Knight e2 check. King b1. If knight d4, then rook takes d4, rook takes d4, rook takes d4. We are in the same position. Bishop c6. And if knight d3, then rook takes d3. Rook takes d3. Yeah, I think bishop c6 is adding that extra pressure on black, and all we have to do here, I guess, is just move the king to b1. But let's have a look again. If king b1, knight c3, king b1, knight to c3. B takes c3, rook d2, rook d2. Again, the rook still cannot move. And knight d4 we already evaluated. Queen g5 is a move, and actually it's a good move that I have not considered, because if we take rook takes d7, we get checkmated on c1. However, if we play rook takes e2, there is nothing black can do to us, because we protect the d1 square. There's queen f5, so rook takes e2. Queen f5, we can drop the bishop to e4 if we want, but we can also maybe play some move like king a1. It's all possible. But right now in this situation, the best move looks rook takes e2. Bishop d7, queen d2 does not inspire any confidence. So rook takes e2. So let's see, 53. If this doesn't look like mates, I don't know what is. We are controlling ever so much here. I think I'm seeing the mate already. So if you play c5 check, yeah, I think I saw the whole thing into checkmate. So if you play c5 check, and he goes king d5, we play c4 check, he goes king e6, and bishop d7 is a checkmate. And if he goes king e6, then we play bishop d7, and then c4 will be a checkmate. So c5 is the first move, second move, and the last move. So it was basically interchangeable puzzle. So still no sign of choking, but there was one or two moves that I've missed, so we'll see how far we can get. One of the moves that looks natural is rook e1, but king f7 defense. Knight to e4 looks like one of the moves as well. Knight to d4, sorry. But there's also this issue with b8 rook. So knight d4 is one candidate, rook e1 is the other candidate. If rook e1, there's a bishop f7. Feels like we want to bring that knight into the game, but I just noticed that bishop f7 itself could be a problem. But knight d4, bishop d7, queen d5. And something like rook f7 looks kind of strong. But I'm not sure I'm actually understanding this position. One of the ideas is also to play knight to c6 at some point. It all looks artificial. But if I didn't know what's happening, this is a puzzle. Knight d4 would be probably my main move here. Knight d4, bishop f7. I feel like knight c6 could be played there. Or knight f5 actually. Knight d4, bishop d7. Knight d4, bishop f7, knight f5, and the checkmate looks almost unstoppable on g7. Although you have queen f8 in that position, so it is pretty much stoppable. Let's calculate further. Knight e7 check. If If king h8, then there will be knight g6 check, and we are already winning a queen. So knight d4 seems to be working in the one line, where we play knight d4, bishop f7, and knight f5, queen f8, knight e7 check, and if king h7, there is also queen f5. That looks very strong. With move like knight to g6, knight d4, bishop d7, queen to d5, and rook f7 also looks strong. So I will go knight d4 because I like the move. And I like queen d5 here as well with rook f7. Yeah, we will try that. Rook f7 will threaten the bishop, so the bishop maybe have to move again, and then we have queen to e5 with some really big threats, I guess. But again, rook f7, rook b7, queen f5, queen e5, queen to g8, and I don't see how we are winning that position. Although rook f7 also looks so natural, but rook f7, rook b7. What do we do here? Rook f7, rook b7. Queen e5, queen g8. And I guess we will have to play move like queen e7 there. But then he's got move like bishop c6, and it's kind of upsetting. Because bishop c6, and we would have rook f7, rook b7. Oh, rook f7, rook b7, then maybe we have knight f5. We don't, because then bishop c6 again. But what we have is maybe rook f7, rook b7, and queen to d6. With the threat of rook f8. And if king g8, we have queen g6. With this time unstoppable checkmates. So I still feel rook f7 the most natural one. Should work. The problem we have, oh no, we can take queen d7 because queen e1 is not a checkmate. But queen e3 check, king f1, rook e8. Queen d7, queen e3 check. Maybe we can play rook f2 there. Yeah, I think we can take queen d7. And rook f2. Because of king f1, rook e8 might be a problem. But also rook f2, rook f8 needs to be considered. Why is it so complicated? Chess.com is trying to fail me, huh? We have two moves, rook f2 and king f1. King h1 is not a move because queen e1 will be a checkmate. So what's the difference between king f1, rook e8, and I don't see a difference from checkmate on e1. There could be a move like knight c2, but then queen c1 is already losing. So king f1 I don't think is a move because there's no visible defense against the checkmate. So let's make it rook f2. Rook f8, I have considered knight f5 at first, and it still looks like a good move. Because again, how would you like to protect the rook on f2? And unfortunately, if let's say the rook was not on f8, we would have also queen g7 and knight f5 check, winning the queen back. But not there yet today. So knight f5 looks like the only move. Okay, rook f1 is the only move. And after rook f1 there's no more checks, so yeah. Slightly more complicated position, but we dodged the bullet. Again, one of the crazy looking positions that looked like something that I would normally play myself, because my openings are like just not solid enough, unfortunately. But the ability to get out of the problem, that's what makes the difference usually. So if I play d5, which looks like the best option to dislodge the bishop, then knight on c6, the bishop takes on c3, and that doesn't look very good. We also need to count the pieces at all times. One of the moves that comes to mind is bishop g5, but we are not trapping the queen there. And bishop g5, then playing d5 is too late again because of bishop takes c3. So then another move to consider is knight to b5. Problem is we are 3 pawns down. So let's go dive a little bit deeper into the line d5. Bishop c3, bishop c3, queen c3, rook c1. dc6 does not seem to be giving much. Bishop g5, queen g6, bishop e7. Black can play bishop e7. Bishop d5, bishop c3. Doesn't look like a move. Feeling like I'm gonna fail this one. Fail this one. If I play knight to b5, bishop d2, knight, okay, no. I play knight to b5 and castles. That doesn't look like it's giving us any pull. Pawn to e5. There's too many options here, too many options. If I don't choke on this puzzle, then I don't know on what puzzle to choke. What to do? Bishop g5, queen g6. What move to play? Not what to do. Pawn to d5, bishop c3. Bishop g5. No. Knight b5, castles. Knight c7. Pawn to d5, bishop c3. Pawn to e5, queen g6. Knight h4. Okay, so this is what I didn't see all this time. Knight to h4 is trapping the queen. Knight g6, knight h8. Good. So, still didn't choke, but this was hard. Problem is I need to choke in about 26 minutes. There's no other choice. This is mate in 2, queen g1, king f4, f5, h5. This is super simple. After all these hard ones, you get one that's this easy. So what's going on here? Also looks a bit like a position that I would play. Keep on repeating myself, right? But it's true. So first of all, we need to realize what the material is like. The material is in our favor. If then we start thinking about this, we are down a piece, but we should be able to regain that piece through a good play. So what will happen if we play rook c3, attacking both of the knights? White doesn't have rook g3 because we then play rook knight takes g3, and if knight takes b5, we have knight e2 check and rook takes b5. So I believe rook c3 looks like the good counter-attacking move that we need to be considering. Problem is after rook h3 there's rook c1 that black has, the white has, sorry. So we will need to stop the checkmates on rook c8. And that will be difficult to find. So rook h3, rook c1, and the checkmates are difficult to stop. So I believe what we need to do first is to take on b5. If bishop a6, we play rook b6. We need to keep pressure on that bishop. So rook b5 first. Rook b6 has to be played. Now we can finally take on h3. Okay, so bishop h4 is basically telling us that if we move away with the rook from the h file, we're gonna lose the knight on h5, which is not a good news. But we can play rook h4, bishop g5, bishop g5, f takes g5, and then we will eventually get the rook out of that. So rook h4 has to be played, I guess. Lots of guessing. 58. 58, no choking inside. No choking inside just yet. What's going on here? 2, 4, 5. 2, 4, 5. Material equal. Tactics, tactics, tactics. I think I'm starting to like these puzzles for what they are, because lots of these look exactly like the position from my game, so especially this one. But what kind of move can I actually play here? What is going on here? Okay, first move that looks like the most significant is to play king to e2 with the really big threat of rook c1. And I don't actually see how black is going to defend. If they play queen to d4, queen to d4, there will be bishop e3. And we start gobbling some of the pieces. But queen to b4, queen to d4, yeah, he doesn't have time to take on d2. So king e2 looks like a move. Why rook c1 would not be a move here? Bishop d6 doesn't make sense for queen d2 check. So let's just follow up with the plan. Once you say A, you must say B. We still have 29 minutes before I need to lose. Before I need to lose this streak. I came too late today. That's the problem. We are down a pawn and we have two pieces, one of them which must fall. But can we not just play knight to d2? Rook c1 or queen c1? Queen c1, rook c1, and then doesn't seem to be as much of anything. Knight d2, queen c1. Queen c1 might be a problem in many lines. Everything seems to be well protected. Starting to like idea of knight to h2, but it does not seem to be doing the whole lot. So if I play knight to e3, f takes e4, then we have queen to h3, and stopping the checkmate is impossible in that position. So we start with knight to e3. Continuing with queen h3, maybe not, maybe yes. What would be the continuation? I'm gonna keep going no matter what's gonna happen. We're just gonna keep going. So it feels like queen h3 wants to be played still. If queen h3, bishop f1, we take knight f1. If rook takes f1, then we take knight g3. And black cannot take actually on g3 at all. Our question is with what we are going to take on g3, but queen h3 looks like the best move here. Since the queen is being attacked, so queen h3 looks like the move. Knight f1 looks like a move, but what if... Oh, if f takes e4 is being played, then rook f2 is not possible. But there is queen h2 checkmate, so rook f1 has to be played. Oh, we got saved by the... That could have continued, and we could have failed it. Again, looks like a complicated position. I keep on claiming those being from my game, but could have been, because my games are messy. So one of the moves that I would consider here is to play queen h6. The rook g6 is very powerful. Queen g7 is even more powerful. If c takes d3, we have just simply king d2, and there's no more checks. So, and protecting both rook g6 check and queen g7, they look impossible to stop. So let's do this. Let's not worry about anything. Okay. So that was simple. And this is like one of our best streak. The very best we had so far was 66. And the aim is, to begin with, the aim is 70. So 70 is the minimum that I would love to have at the moment. This position is very tricky indeed. kind of like idea of knight takes f6, but then it looks like knight takes f6 could be the answer. But maybe we have just simply bishop takes g5. How is that queen out there like that? Knight h6 I don't like at all because of the... But actually I'm starting to like it a bit more. I'm starting seeing some possibilities to trap the queen. But knight h6 is not it, because knight takes h6 is gonna defend. And if bishop h5, knight f7, then bishop g4, queen g6 is already saving the queen. So that cannot work. We also need to consider that actually bishop g4 is not trapping the queen. There's always the check queen a5. So if we play rook f1, then maybe black has queen a5. So we need to consider what to do with our bishop on h4. One move that comes to mind is knight to e5. If g takes h4, then bishop h5, king e7, no. Okay, I get it. If knight to e5, f takes e5, if knight to e5, f takes e5, bishop g4, king f6, then we have bishop h5, bishop g5. So knight e5, knight e5, f takes e5 doesn't seem to work. Knight e5, bishop b4, c3, knight e5, g takes h4, bishop g4, no, knight e5, g takes h4, bishop h5, check, king e7, rook f1 kind of thing. Ooh, this one doesn't look easy. Knight e5, g takes h4. 95. Is 95 strong enough? Knight 5 GH4. Rook F1. Might be losing also too much material for the I'm a little perplexed of us what to do. Need to get into some sort of calculations with 95 GH4. I can't see there the idea. Knight 5 G takes H4. Is a problem because if bishop G4, then there's queen F2. If rook F1, then there is queen H3, and I don't see continuations there. And bishop H5 doesn't really look like it does much. So Knight 5 GH4 doesn't look like the move. Rook F1, Queen A5, Knight C3, G takes H4. And I'm not convinced. But how about Knight E5? Rook F1. Bishop H5. Rook F1, Queen H3. Huh? How about knight takes f6, knight takes f6, rook takes g5, And knight f6 is actually with a check. So I should have considered the checks. So knight takes f6, queen takes f6, then bishop g5 and h5 is looking really bad. So knight f6, rook g5, and the queen is trapped because it can only go to e6, and then we play just rook to e5. It's actually a very simple calculation, but I was calculating things that did not make no sense. One thing I've missed actually, that when I play rook g5, they can go queen h3. I would really like to see what the queen h3 is about. But we have rook e5 there. And then bishop h5. King g7, bishop f6. Then the attack continues there, but queen h3, rook e5, and then maybe bishop f6. It's not easy to see actually. Well, we move past that. It's a shame queen h3 actually looked really good there. So if we play f6, black has h5. We can play rook d8, rook d8, king h7, and then we can play e6. And I don't think black is in time to even stop the mate, stop the pawn from promoting. e6, f7, he's got king g7 there. No, he doesn't, because the rook will be on the 8th rank. So f6 to threaten a mate. Oh, no. Oh, I know what I've missed. I should have played rook d8 check, rook takes, king g7, f6 check. So I got like actually tempo, then king goes to h6, and then we push the pawn e6. So the idea I had was good, but the execution was terrible. So we are black, and our only choice is to start with winning the queen. It's really sad how I choked there. So where do we need to go? Now we need to calculate. King d4, king g7, king e5, king g8, h5, king g7, h4, king g6, king e5. Yeah, okay. I think h4 makes the sense, and now we need to bring the king. And now we fight up for the control of the most important squares, which is g2, g1. Once we got the... Wow, so 7 minutes 63. This is one of our best for sure. I don't want to be rude, but it looks like in g2 is the move. King g2, rook h2, rook d2, h7, and then d6. Takes. King g2 looks like a first move. Rook will have to protect, and then we push d6. And then he will have to sacrifice that bishop for the pawn. Don't see what else would be there. What did I miss there? Okay, choking's coming. Choke's coming. We are down a piece. Could there be anything better than knight takes g5? Queen g7, bishop f6. So we have two options, queen g5 and knight takes g5. There's no better moves than queen g5 and knight g5. So which one are we taking? Queen g5, knight g5, h6, and then knight f3, and then maybe f6. So it looks like knight g5 is the only option to begin with. Queen g7, the only move that seems to be making sense. Again, knight h7, the only move that ever would make sense. But the question is, knight h7, rook f7, what's there next? This looks very tricky, very tricky. I think I will play queen g8 check and then queen takes g6. Okay. And here we go, our third best. And absolute chokage towards the end. And it's a shame because here I saw what's gonna happen, but in a wrong move order. There's no way to stop me from promoting. In this one, d6 is not the best move. So what is the best move? It's this simple. Why did I not consider it? That if I play rook d3, it's probably better to win that bishop. To win that bishop and keep the d pawn. So bishop f4. And oh, actually, I'm not winning just the bishop. I'm winning the rook behind it, right? And if the rook moves down, then I'm going to win the bishop. Okay. But what have I missed here? Knight g5, okay. 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 What now? Queen to h8, king e7. Ah, okay, I think... no, I still don't know. Oh, this is so dumb. I didn't need to give the check on g8. I just can take just on g6. Really? How did I miss that? But what's the point of... my next move? Knight takes f6 I cannot do. Knight g5 I don't have. That will be move like queen h8 coming and trying to win my knight. So what is the next move? Can be knight f6. But I always have knight f6, so how is that? If I go rook d1, then if I go f4, queen h8, that's too slow, isn't it? f4, king h8, e takes f6, rook h7 would not work. Would it work? E takes f6. So it looks like f4 here. And once I take here, I'm freeing the knight. The knight is free now. We can... Taking on f6 will be a mistake because then king moves, and if we trade a queen, we are gonna lose the knight on it, h7. So I think we just trade a queen, take knight f6. Okay, at least we know how we failed. Okay guys, thank you for watching, and I'm going to try and do another stream shortly. We'll wrap this up, so I'll come up later on. Thank you.